Owen Carrol is a writer with a passion for exploring philosophical and moral perspectives in his work, delving into the intricacies of human psychology. And Owen is on the line with us here. How are you today?
I'm doing quite good, very excited to be here.
Now, your kind of background originally involved working in politics for several years. So, how did your experiences there influence your decision to kind of get into writing and focus on the topics that you do?
I've been writing since I was 10 years old, and
Mm.
I was very, very into fantasy writing and creative writing, and then I kind of took a break for it. So I've been writing for about 6 years now, and I then took a dive into politics to because I got very curious about how society and humanity as a whole, as a collective, works,
Mm.
and it just pointed out injustices and things we don't talk about. So I got very interested in the human psyche, and I figured I could mesh it all together, and so I have.
Yeah. And your upcoming book delves into the issue of teenage suicide. So, what was it that motivated you to explore such a sensitive and challenging subject matter there?
The thing is with suicide is that a lot of this conversation happens behind mental health professional doors for a very
Yeah.
good reason. But I find that not many people actually talk about it, and it's extremely important, and we have to. And especially in Scotland, our services are declining,
Mm.
and people are just going under, and we need to talk about this. We need to have a discussion. We need to be human about this. We really need to sit down with one another and have this conversation of what keeps us going and how to help out one another.
Yeah. And with that background in politics, do you see any kind of policy or societal change that maybe could or needs to happen to, positively impact people's mental health and reduce suicide rates?
We definitely need to be more welcoming to each other. We're very isolationist at the moment.
Mm.
We need to really connect and just talk. I've found that there is no talking anymore. It's all debates, and it's all taking offense or getting in arguments. There's no talking. There's no humanity in the discourse we have. So the thing I see that needs to change is we do need to be more human with each other and talk about the one thing we've all got in common, and that is living and existing and
Yeah.
inevitably passing away. And some choose to pass away. So we do need to push for change in that matter.
Mm. And do you hope that your book will change people's perspectives?
I hope it gives people an insight into how it all may work for someone who's going through these thoughts.
Yeah.
And I really hope it starts the conversation. And I also hope that it gets people to realize that everyone does experience everything differently. And you can only really know someone if you know how they will react to something. That's extremely important. You need to know someone's thought process the best you can to
Yeah.
understand them. So I do think it's extremely important to try know someone in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you think your age has influenced your perspective on teenage suicide? Because do you think it's maybe, I guess a lot of older people will have different thoughts about it?
Yeah, so of course I'm quite young myself. I'm
Yeah.
not even past 17 yet, coming up on it. But I've just been being around other teenagers. I've seen them just really decline, and I've seen them close off.
Yeah.
That really does influence the part of we need to talk about this, not just teenage suicide, but the whole topic as a whole, because it's very philosophical and psychological, and we need to invest more time in it. And the difference between perhaps a more elderly person's views and a younger person's views is I think there wasn't much mental health guidance or help back when they were a teenager, so it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily always it was still an issue, but there wasn't necessarily the knowledge and the issue behind it. So I believe that perhaps there are some that don't quite understand why you would do it, or they don't understand what would drive someone to that point, and
Yeah.
that's what I really want to explore.
And do you think that today there is enough kind of mental health guidance? Because obviously, I guess you'd expect it would be better these days and getting better, but obviously it could be argued that there's still a long way to go.
Oh yes, psychology is not a very new science. You know, we only
Yeah.
started really delving into it in the early 20th century.
Mm.
It's very fresh, it's very new, and there's not enough research that's went into it because we're nearly about 160 years into developing our knowledge of it, and that's not a very long time. And the way I see it is that we've also not done nearly enough to the point of that time would expect. So I
Yeah.
think there definitely needs to be more push for it because things are declining. You know, public spending is going down. There's a
Yeah.
lot that is going on, and we're not there yet. The guidance and the base knowledge is fundamental and it's fine, but we're not quite at the point yet where we can sustain it all. We need to really get ourselves together and start doing more research, more in-depth looks. We need to throw a lot more spending at it. And of course that's not really the solution to everything. You don't just throw money at things and expect it to work.
Yeah.
There also needs to be incentive for people to get into it. And I think that the main incentive is to really just help other people out when they need it. And that needs to be within us because I think that we've kind of lost our way in that sense. So we need to get that passion to help our fellow people out.
Yeah. And why is it that you think why do you think teenage suicide rates have skyrocketed? Because, you know, I guess, you know, as I mentioned, you would expect the support is better these days.
I think they've skyrocketed for a number of reasons. Typically, most things link back to finance and economical situations, and that does drive people down. Of course, teenagers don't
Yes.
necessarily care about the economy,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
but it does affect them, and not all of them realize this. So
Yeah.
perhaps a family is struggling, the mental health help isn't there. The access and the accessibility to these sources aren't quite there yet. And of course, teenagers are in education, and education in Scotland has been proven to really decline. So it kind of feels like you're rolling the ball up the hill and it just keeps on falling down, you're losing ground. You know, I think today's youth are in the position of Sisyphus,
Yeah.
and it's only downhill if we don't actually work towards something better.
Yeah. And because teenagers are affected by the economy, but, you know, don't think about it or care about it, I guess, does that maybe make them more sort of affected in a mental health way because they are experiencing the effects of it but don't actually know what's happening? So, you know, when you know exactly what's happening, you can feel better about something, if you see what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. I just I can only have nightmares about having something affect me and never knowing what it was,
Yeah.
and that truly is terror. So we really do need to get more. We really do need to have more education about that because everyone's feeling effects of everything they don't quite know about, and it is only a matter of time before they find out.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's not fast enough. We're not quick enough in saying this is what's going on. We're not really. Young people are getting into politics. You know, don't mistake me on that.
Yeah.
But not enough, and that does have the effect. Even those who are into it, they don't feel like they can do anything about it, and that is even possibly a greater defeat to them because they may be revolutionary minds or so on, or political prodigies, yet they're not quite at the age to do something about it, and perhaps they're so out of the ballpark with their ideas no one will listen, and that's only going to give you a bigger slap in the face.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose it's not just suicide that are the consequences of this. It's all kinds of mental health issues. You could end up with drug addiction or even homelessness. One thing can lead to another, which leads to another. So I guess, do you explore or plan to explore other consequences of bad mental health in this book or others?
Typically, I am looking to exploring the topic of ending one's life a bit more in an
Mm.
upcoming novel. I really find the situation quite intriguing. It's a bit of morbid curiosity,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a bit of morbid curiosity. But I'm very intrigued in the subject. And one thing I want to explore in the writings is how moral is it? I'm really intrigued by that question, because some would say it's completely justified, others would say it depends, and others would say it's never justified. And it's all such a great area, even when you have no, this is right, no, this is wrong.
Yeah.
It's so great. So with my writings, I really want to explore just how moral this may be, and I want to go through all sorts of circumstances and situations and have a lot of conflicts and dialogues with characters, and I hope people do enjoy that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fascinating sort of conversation, I suppose, because when it comes to suicide, a lot of people would say it's selfish or whatever, whereas others would say, well, they're ill, and that's just the illness that's consumed them, and it's the illness that's killed them. So it's such a fascinating conversation to explore, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so all over the place at the moment.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start.
Absolutely. So, when you're dealing with subjects like this, do you kind of sugarcoat it, or do you kind of just go all in and kind of have the frankness when it comes to talking about deep subjects like this?
I will never sugarcoat this subject.
Yes.
I want to really hit people hard with this.
Yeah.
I don't. I will never. I will never phrase it in a good way. I will phrase it in a very frank and blunt way. I'll never say, and so they crossed the rainbow bridge. I'm not going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the melancholic aspects of it, because it is a sad subject and we need
Yeah.
to wrap our heads around that. And I think everyone has, but we're like sugarcoating it. No, I'm very, very just straightforward to the point.
Yeah.
Why this is going on, what happened next drove them to this point.
Absolutely. Well, what are you working on after this book? Are there any specific plans that you're planning on working on?
Yes, so back in my prime, when I was doing like full-length novels, I got really bored of it. I was like, oh, I don't have the time to do full-length novels anymore. So that's why this one is a short story. It's extremely short. About 9 pages print length.
Ooh.
But in the future, I do want to do a longer one. I mean, it might not even be that long, but I am working on one right now. I have a concept for another one in the future. I don't know if I can quite discuss. They're my books. I can discuss it. Yeah. So the one I'm working on right now is called These Same Old Clouds, and it takes place in Dundee. And then another one I'm working on with concepts is, at the moment, it's called Hugh's Hubris. So that'll have themes to do with colour, and These Same Old Clouds has a lot to do with pathetic fallacy and the weather. So that's what I like to take these little themes and just drive them home.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, in the meantime, where are we going to be able to find this book? Which, of course, explores teenage suicide and the idea of right to death.
Yes, so you will be able to find this book on Amazon, any marketplace in the world, just by searching in If I Could Wish. I've made a pretty bad mistake because I didn't realise someone else had wrote a book with that title.
Oh no!
But it is grey in cover, and it's got a dandelion to symbolise wishing. So yes, and it's obviously got my name on the cover, obviously. So you can find that at Amazon.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for talking to us today. It's been great to have you here on the show.
Yes, thank you very much. It's been amazing.